Welcome back to Pre-Market Prep. Happy Tuesday. Reminder that it is a shortened week. Hope everyone had a good Memorial Day weekend. We have a lot to talk about this morning. DraftKings getting hammered on some tax news in Illinois. We got Apple, finally some positive news out of China. The first time we've said that this year. And more T1 settlement dates we're going to be talking about. So we've got a lot to talk about. Let's go ahead and get the show started. We get back, I'll bring on Joel and Dennis. Welcome to Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep.
This is a volatile puppy here.
It's all about execution styles and strategies.
Alrighty, let's get right to it. Let's bring in Joel and go through the charts this morning. Joel, how we doing?
Well, we're in the green. We had a decent range overnight. We're up 7 handles, so continued on Friday's rally. That was nice. We'll see if it can take us to a new all-time high today. The buck is trading down about 36 cents, so 104.29. TLT still consolidating at $91 area, down 33 cents at 91.05. Crude showing some life, up $1.17 at 78.89. Gold and silver, well, they're both having good days. Gold up just about 0.5% at 23.4780, but silver's got the hops. That's up a $1.30, over 4%, 31.79. And Bitcoin taking a little breather, falling out of the 70,000 handle, down $765 at 68,315. We didn't cover it on the pre-market show, but we got to get it out of the way, Dennis. Bad loss last night.
Don't talk hockey.
Okay, no
Don't talk hockey. We're done talking sports. It's not a sports
The
show.
Oilers have had the same theme all playoffs, where they get an early lead,
blowing leads,
and then just let it up.
Yeah, same.
We got to start
team.
a new trade where we bet on Oilers to score first, and then
blow it,
and then we take the live spread on the other team.
Yeah, I think that's the play. They blow leads, man. They've been doing it and again, the goaltending's weak. Skinner's not great. He's been fine in this series, but the winning goal was terrible last night. But he's just not, if you look at the 4 goalies that are left, Bobrovsky, obviously been phenomenal for Florida for a lot of years here. Chesterton is the reason, one of the main reasons the Rangers are here. He's awesome. And then you're going again against Ottinger, who's a Vezina candidate. And then you have Skinner, who's a third year, mediocre, middle of the road, not great. So that's the one area where Edmonton really struggles is the net. Defenses, there's a couple defensemen really good on Edmonton, a couple not so great. So they blow leads, man. They get up 2-0, they're in control, and they blow the lead. Whatever. They got to win tomorrow. Got to win tomorrow.
I just got to be honest. I just popped it on, and it was 2-0.
Oh, you're bad. I'm never watch it again.
I'm not, I'm not going to get on. I'm not going to say anything. But I'm watching the game, and I'm like, okay, Dallas is on a power play here.
Oh, then the beginning of the second, they just came out, yeah.
They were just skating. So I'm like, did they pull their goalie? I'm like, can I bet on these things intra-game? I mean, it just...
Joel, you can't watch it anymore. That was literally the 5 minutes that Dallas dominated. Joel's bad luck. You're not allowed to watch the Edmonton.
All right, let's bring it back.
The reason they lost was Joel was watching.
Let's bring it
back. You want to see something even worse, Dennis? I took a picture when they were up 2-0.
Gosh.
And I was going to send it to you.
Yeah.
I really, but I
didn't. You don't watch hockey enough. 2-0 lead, the most dangerous lead in hockey. They say it is the 2-0 lead because easily blown. Hockey's all momentum. You get momentum going. There's a lot of sports that are momentum. Baseball. Oh, we got the bases loaded. We're going. But hockey, the momentum is everything. And when you got it, you're unstoppable. And when you don't have it, you're just in trouble. That's why the cycles happen. Hockey is all momentum. Edmonton, all momentum in the first and none of it in the second. And then they seesaw a little bit in the third, and it was a crappy goal, and that's the game. So, yeah.
And it's not even... All right, we'll skip the Indy 500 talk.
Yeah, we'll bring it back to... Yeah. Bring it back to the market. Something else we should get out of the way before we get to specific stock news. I was reading up on this T1 settlement date, and I figured you guys would know better than I do exactly. Does this really matter? I mean, to me, It's basically what the new change. It used to take 2 days for your trades to settle. So you buy a stock today, you wouldn't technically own those shares till Thursday. Now they're saying it's the very next day you'll own those shares. Does it matter? How will this impact us? How will this impact retail traders?
Just again, it really doesn't. We went from 3 to 2 to 1, and it really doesn't. To like you're hoping that obviously everybody's going to adjust. So like your dividend dates now are not going to be your ex-dividend date isn't 2 days past, only 1 day past. So you hope all your calendars are adjusted. The people have to be on it that are obviously building these calendars, like Benzinga. It doesn't really matter overall. One thing, though, that they've continued to talk about is going to instantaneous settlement. And here we will be taking the 1 to the 0. I don't think this is possible, and I'll tell you why. And regulators, please listen if you're listening, or market structure people, please listen if you're listening. How do you fix mistakes? Because errors happen. Trading errors happen. They have to bust trades. Things happen. Sometimes outside of trading ranges, stocks trade, they do bust trades. How do you fix those mistakes if it's instantaneous settlement and the money is gone? It's from here to here. You need time to find those mistakes and then correct them. So 1 day makes it a little tougher, but I think everybody can find the mistakes within a day. To find them instantaneously, that's tough. So you get a stock that trades out of range, a pre-market or something like that, and the money's just gone. There's like, okay, well, no, we're coming to bust that trade. So now we're going to take the money back from you out of your account and put it back. It gets tricky. So when you have, trades that need to be canceled, and they do happen, folks, I've had hundreds of trades canceled on me over the years. They happen when they're out of the range. And during the flash crash, remember, it was like stock to a penny. Well, imagine all those stocks trade to a penny and all those stocks settled. Now you got to try to go and, there's much getting back when they're down to a penny, but, an Apple trade up to thousands of dollars a share. I mean, in an algorithmic world, mistakes happen and you need time to settle. So I don't think it's possible to go down to 0. I don't think it's needed either. Like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish by instantaneous settlement? I like the 1 day. 1 day is fine. I think we're good. One and done, I'll say. That's what it needs to be.
I would just say, I obviously they got it to this point, so they are ironing out the kinks, and fairly confident it's going to work. This has been going on in the commodities industry for a long time. I mean, you're settled. They do midday runs. They figure things out before you start trading in the next morning. They're called out trades. I've had some doozy out trades. I mean, it's done. It's been done. Stocks is a whole lot different and a whole lot more complicated with the dividends and things like that. But I think you get through the first couple days, they'll iron out the kinks. And
I think this is fine. I think going to the T1, we have no problem at all. I just don't think going to T0 would be easy. Like T3 to T2 was simple. T2 to T1 is fairly simple. T1 to T none, instantaneous settlement opens a whole can of worms that I don't think you need to open. So I would be against going from T1 to T0. So anyways, your stock's going to settle next day. That's fine. It makes it simpler. This 3-day settlement was stupid. 2-day settlement, 1-day settlement. I think they've got it right. I think that's where you want to be, is 1-day settlement. Allows people and brokerages to correct trades that, are erroneous. And you don't have to go about trying to find the account because, like, who knows? Like, somebody takes it and their money, you want to keep moving the physical money around after the busted trades. Not really. So I think T1 is where it needs to be. So that's the only thing I really have to say about it.
All right, well, let's get to some individual stock news, and we've got a couple movers out there, but when you've got the biggest or the second biggest company in the world with some news, we'll start with that, and that's going to Apple. Apple, we've talked all year about some struggles that the company's had in China with weakening demand, but now it looks like that trend is starting to reverse. Some news that iPhone sales in China went up 52% year over year. This comes as Apple has been, discounting the phones over there to compete with other top competitors. So good news for Apple here, trading up 2%, around $193. And now, I mean, pretty close to all-time highs at $199. So Apple has come all the way back.
Unbelievable comeback.
Dip buyers have been rewarded on Apple, and we'll see if that trend continues throughout the day.
They were very worried about China. We've been talking about, obviously, Apple over China sales, and you see a bounce back in the data. That's going to get the stock going. I mean, it's now going to start to think about all-time highs, and you're at 199. Joel's bet 200. Maybe you get it this time, but every time it seems to get up there, it finds resistance again. So you're coming in now buying it. I mean, you got $6 before you hit major resistance. I feel like you're a little bit late to the party. It has been running here for the last week and a half or 2 weeks, actually longer than that if I'm just looking at my chart. It's really been running here for the last month. 166 all the way up to 190. I feel like the meat has already been eaten here. I don't feel like it's like just, again, you take out the 200, then your breakout mode, and we know stocks can break out. But I've never made a lot of money buying stocks up at resistance and then anticipating that it goes, because a lot of times they fail. You buy breakouts when they break out. I'd say until Apple gets above 200, I'd be more inclined to sell it up here than buy it. Long term, we know they'll figure it out. It's always good to own stocks. Big mega cap companies. Valuation's not great, but it's going to be an AI play. They're starting to figure it out. So long term, you're fine. Short term, I think I'd wait for a pullback.
Well, it went where it was supposed to. That initial 4 a.m. run. Look at all these highs over 195. I mean, 194.76, and then you had another high just above that. So there's an interesting area. But I'll come down to the highs of last week, and they're right around 193. We are trading above that. So if this is going to be like the strong move, the push to 195, 196, I expect a 193 bid here to emerge and hold, because yesterday's high is way down at 190.58. So I don't know. I'm holding 193. I think could be if you're shorting it, I don't know if I'd hold out for the 190.58. And then moving back to the upside, you see those tops over 195, 196. So setting up pretty nice technically. Of course, we have our beautiful 8 a.m. prints that take it down under
gosh.
191.
The 8 a.m. is annoying too. Regulators, we need to figure that out too. I mean, not even on the regulators really. They got to print sometime, but what the 8 a.m. prints are all the retail overnight trading sessions, which are all over the place sometimes on their pricing. That's what you're seeing go by, and it screws up the last. I mean, we just need the FINRA, the pre-market, and after hours not to change the last. During the regular session, though, the FINRA is in the mix, so that's where it gets confusing.
All right. Other movers this morning. On the flip side, you had Apple trading higher. Your biggest laggard this morning, at least in terms of bigger companies and stocks, is DraftKings getting hammered today, and other gambling stocks. We can talk some Flutter as well. On some news that Illinois is raising taxes on the revenue made by gambling companies. So it was 15%. JB Pritzker and his administration had proposed a tax hike. So what was happening in Illinois was, if you logged on to your, DraftKings or FanDuel account, which, I wouldn't know anything about, but when you did do that in Illinois, you were being proposed to reach out to your lawmakers to say that you were against this tax hike, but they went ahead and passed it over the weekend or this morning. And now these stocks are getting hammered on this. Fears that other states may, follow suit.
Yes, and this is obviously an issue here. Taxing is always an issue. DraftKings, I was long it overnight, so pretty upset about that. I've already sold and took the loss. It was just an overnight trade, and boom, you're hit, hammered, move on, take the loss. Down 7% on DKNG. FLUT, same thing, getting hit really hard here. These stocks were lagging going into this, so obviously some people had inclination here that maybe, it's something like this was coming. Are there other states to follow? That's always the question here as well. So, I mean, I do think at a certain point in time, DraftKings probably a buy. Flutter's been really good too. I mean, you get down here 195, you're getting down to support at 190. Maybe this dip gets bought, but I wasn't in it for a swing trade. I wasn't in it for a long-term trade. I was in it as an arbitrage trade, and it's not working out.
Dennis, did Flutter, remember we had that one sports stock, sports wagering stock, Goldman Rec. I'm going back a long ways now, and it just never really went anywhere, and it got taken over. It was, you remember what I'm talking about? It was like a $17, $20 stock, just went absolutely nowhere, got taken out just about even, and then I think it was taken out by Flutter.
When? Like a long time ago?
Yeah, I'd say 5-6 years ago. 7. Yeah, I'll think about it. Well, I'll just go look at the DraftKings because that's most widely filed here.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was tight. I mean, someone had an inkling there was a vote or something was going to happen last week, because this thing really took a haircut last week. Just think about it too. You're out of the NCAA season, right? You don't have professional football. I mean, baseball, Aaron bets on baseball. I mean, hockey playoffs, I mean, they're big in certain parts of the, country. So, if you're looking at this from a seasonality thing, I wouldn't be that surprised of it, to see a little bit of a decline until you get closer to football season. But this is a big haircut. And when you're talking about the tax man, that kind of really opens things up. So will other states follow suit? Will it deter other state, that don't have the gambling to come out with higher regulations? So this is not a surprise at all that, the government's going to get their hand in the till where they can. Is technically speaking, maybe it'll go back down and fill that earnings gap. Maybe not necessarily today, but 35.53 is the top of that gap going to earlier in the year. Coming back on the upside, if you want some resistance for now, it will be right at that 40 to 40 and a half area. That is the area of yesterday's low.
All right, so you got the gambling stocks trading lower. You've got Apple trading higher. Let's talk some meme stocks real quick. Get it out of the way. So GameStop trading up this morning more than, what is it, up 25% now. And I mean, I don't know. So this is on the completion of its at-the-market equity offering program. I don't know. I mean, it sounded like when I first saw the headline, I thought it was an offering, which usually, hammers stocks, but that's clearly not what this is. What's going on with this? Why is GameStop trading up 20%?
This was Friday night. I'm trying to remember the headline there too. So it's popping up Friday night, and then it continued to pop after hours. I think it was the pricing, or again.
Oh no, okay. So they announced that the offering is completed. So they were doing the stock sales. Now it's done now. So they're saying, okay, so the raising
we're past
money,
that. So that was putting pressure down on the stock, and now we're past that. That's right. Because I'm trying to remember. Friday seems like so long ago, Joel. I mean, we're Tuesday here now, and this news came out Friday night. I'm like trying to remember. Okay, yeah, this came out literally 4:07 p.m. Friday night, so it feels like an eternity ago. But the at the money equity offering is done, so that's why the pop up. I think it's a gift. Full disclosure, I did short this pop here up over 24.5, or I think 24.80 last night. So I actually am still short the stock. So I'll just say that, but I plan on covering
24.80.
It got crazy after hours, Joel. It just felt like when it got up to 25, just seemed like, we're done. Not a long term, not betting against GameStop. People are going to come out and say, like, oh my goodness, Dennis is short. It's not. I'm covering it this morning. I just felt like it was overdone up at 24.80, and I'm absolutely correct because it's 23.20. I still haven't covered.
You know how you get all that extra stuff on Twitter that you don't want for somehow people that you don't follow, but you still, that adds up in your feed and everything. I don't know how to turn it off. But what I heard, what a genius Ryan Cohn is. How he is gonna, he's just a genius with companies, with debt, and these kind of offerings, and
he's a genius at making himself money.
Yeah, he's a genius
at the expense of other people.
Also just go back to the lower liquidity thing, right? Overnight we talk about this in the S&Ps, we talk about this in Bitcoin. I mean, there's less liquidity. If you have people that want to go in the same direction, they can get it moving in that direction. So, wow, I don't even see the high. If you're looking for more on this one, 24.30 is the pre-market high. That's a buck away, and then I'm going to try and figure support here. If you got a big gap down to 1968. So if you want to run a similar run you had a couple of weeks ago, man, you want this thing bid. You want this thing bid over the pre-market high. You want to bid at 25. But I think we've seen this kind of scenario before. Let's see how it folds out today. I don't even think AMC is moving off this today. I think that's up slightly. So very, very news specific to GME this morning.
Every time it's popped up since the big run a couple weeks ago, it's been a selling opportunity. I think it's another selling opportunity. I may be wrong, but it's starting to come in already.
All right. Some other news in the telecommunications space. So T-Mobile is looking to purchase or to acquire most of U.S. Cellular in a $4.4 billion deal. T-Mobile, this was just announced a few minutes ago. T-Mobile not really moving on this, and we've talked about this in the show, but a lot of times you see companies that are actually doing the acquiring moving lower because they have to, spend some money or they'll use some debt to make the acquisition. But again, T-Mobile not really moving too much on this. Not sure how much we care about T-Mobile's stock, but it is a big company with a market cap of nearly $200 billion.
It's the little one. What's the little one that was moving? So it's not T-Mobile. It's who's the other one? I don't follow the company.
U.S.
in this
Cellular?
news. In this, yeah, US, whatever it's the other news.
don't
I
even
already
know
saw
that
it.
is.
TDS. TDS is the one that's moving. It's up 17%. So that's the one that's moving because that's the one that's selling it. I mean, this is a windfall here for shareholders. Stock moving up 17% because they're, selling, a big chunk of the business here. These are almost always selling opportunities when you see these. So 22 maybe continues. Not saying, well, I shouldn't say almost always, but often these are really selling opportunities here. I would be a seller of TDS up here at $22.
Well, I mean, technically speaking, I mean, you had a triple top last week, or no, 2 weeks ago. So you're right back at this area after a little rug pull here. So this key 2150. I'm not going to try and call a top, but I'll say you hold this 2150. You better hold this 2150. A lot of people getting their money back here, trading near the highs of the pre-market session. And then I just looked at T-Mobile and look at that chart. I mean, trade the bottom of the range.com. I mean, the entire year, this thing is traded primarily between 160 and 165. Look at that 160 support there. Holy mackerel, you're $6 away. But here you are. You're back at not your yearly high, but you're back at your high for the month. Let's see what happens at 166.50 for T-Mobile. But $165 stock, man, really tight range here, almost for the entire year.
What actually impacts T-Mobile a lot of times is the QQQ ARB2. I really see that thing move opposite Nvidia a lot of times, and then it goes this way. And then if Apple's moving, I mean, this QQQ non-tech ARB that I talk about all the time is annoying for those 20 stocks, and especially a stock like T-Mobile. Like Costco is always best of breed, so it doesn't get impacted as much. And T-Mobile is best of breed in their industry too. It just seems like it's the ultimate fade stock. It's just like it goes up a buck, goes down a buck, goes up a buck, goes down a buck. I always find myself fading it and doing well fading TMUS.
Could you give like a 30-second recap of that, of the index arbitrage? Because we have different people filtering in and out of the show. And
yeah, 99.999999999% of professional investors don't even know about this. But it's, the high frequency and people who are trading very, very actively, like myself, know that there's Qs. There's 23, I think, or 25 non-tech components of the QQQ. Those will often move opposite to what the core tech is doing. And they call it rotation in the media. They call it everything. It's just index ARB. We see this very pronounced on days where you have one of the mega caps reporting earnings, or where one of the mega caps is really moving. And you see what happens is that those stocks that are the non-tech components of the QQQ move in the opposite direction sometimes, just because it's all index ARB and it just has to add up. So if you've got, the Apple ripping today, QQQs aren't up that much. Sometimes you actually see some of the other stocks show weakness here. T-Mobile is showing weakness here, probably because of its individual news. But if you just go through all the stocks, it's a good day for it, actually, because Apple's ripping and Nvidia's ripping. So you got Apple up 1.72%, Nvidia up 3%. Those are big moves. QQQ isn't up that much. It's only up 0.29%. So the bulk of the move, probably at 0.29%, is probably Nvidia and Apple. So what they do is they're going to buy other tech stocks up because that's what they do, but they hit the non-tech components. So if you just go through, like, today, for instance, I'll just grab like Gilead. It's a biotech, but it's thrown into the non-tech. It's down today.
Oh.
You go into like Pepsi, it's down today. You go into like Costco's up, but Costco does its own thing. Costco actually reports earnings this week, so that's the pre-earnings run there, so it's not a good example. T-Mobile would probably be down even without this news. Honeywell's in there, it's down. If I just look, they're all down. Mondelez offered down, MDLZ, so the QQQ algo is offering these stocks down simply because Apple and Nvidia are up too much for the Qs.
One more
People
question.
say I'm nuts. I tell you, I'm 100% accurate. I'm not often.
We've seen this. We've seen this pull out. We've seen this.
It works. I make money off this all the time. P&L speaks for yourself. Just understanding those relationships. That's what I am. I'm not a technician. I'm not, this fundamental genius. I do make some good calls sometimes, some bad calls sometimes. I'm a relationship trader. I identify relationships and profit from them. This kind of day, you don't want to be buying those non-tech. Unless Nvidia and Apple reverse, then those other stocks will go opposite. But a T-Mobile actually moves opposite to Nvidia on a lot of mornings.
It's just the math. Eric just asked,
Just the math.
do you your index arb exclusively tech versus non-tech? And I should say, how many other forms of index arb do you use?
All kinds, man. I do, exotic, arbitrage strategies sometimes. The thing is, when you trade arbitrage at 10 a.m., it's all done by machines. When you're pre-market, the majority of your stocks are very illiquid. Even in the S&P, a lot of those stocks are very illiquid. So it's a little bit of a guessing game. I specialize in that guessing game. I specialize where the algos don't go. I don't like trading with algos. I don't like anything that's super efficient. At 10 a.m., it's all super efficient. None of this edge exists. But pre-market or after hours, the edge absolutely exists. Understanding how stocks move relative to other stocks, there is huge money in that. I have made my entire life, almost all of my net worth created from understanding relationships in stocks.
You know what? This is before we move on to the other stocks. You got a real life example of some arb that you did over the weekend, and it's also something that you talked about last week.
Which stock?
The weekend trade.
Oh, XBI. Yeah. That's not arb. That's just so the XBI that's like a guessing game. But I buy it every weekend. So I buy the XBI every Friday night at the close. Every single Friday night at the close. Why? Because merger Monday for Biotechs often get announced. And we got a big week of, drug news coming out with the one conference that's going on. It was a good night to be, it was a probability was quite high that the XBI would open up on Monday. We get that news from INSM, which is like 0.8% of the XBI. INSMED, if you bring that one up, that's popping the XBI here today. So the reason INSM is like 0.8%. So you can just see 121.7%. That's roughly 1% for the XBI right there. So again, rewarded for just being long the XBI into the weekend. I've talked about that trade a lot. Long XBI into the weekend, buying it Friday night, selling it Monday morning. Continues. It doesn't work. Nothing works 100% of the time. If it worked 100% of the time, I'd put all my money in and be the richest man in the world. But, if it works 55% of the time, I make long-term money. If it works 60% of the time, it's really good. So over the weekend, being long XBI at the close, selling at the open, tends to have some alpha extraction from that strategy.
And it's the smaller biotech stocks that you're going after with the XBI. You're not the
IBB doesn't work for, because IBB, those are the kind of companies that would be buying the smaller ones. So now again, INSM isn't merger news, it's just simply drug news. But a lot of times you get merger news on a Monday. Do you want to give that news, Aaron? INSM, we can bring you in here. Why the stock. This is your leader of the board. I think this is, if I go to my leaderboards, this is right near the top.
Yeah, so the shares are trading higher after the company announced top-line results from Aspen Phase 3 study. It met its primary endpoint. So again, positive trial news coming here from INSMED. I'm not too familiar with the actual drug in this Aspen trial. Let me see if I can get some more specifics from this headline real quick from Benzinga Pro. So this is for, let's see, some pulmonary so it sounds like something with I don't know how to
say any of the crap either.
Bronchiectasis.
I think that's a dinosaur.
Yeah, it sounds like a dinosaur. No, it's something with your lungs. So something probably to help. I'm guessing with some sort of rare lung disease. Achieves primary endpoint for both dosage strengths of brensocatib with statistically significant, clinically meaningful reduction in frequency of pulmonary exacerbations versus placebo. So I don't know what pulmonary exacerbations mean. I guess that's probably lung things going on with your lungs. And the drug seems to be doing well. Stock's up over 100%. That's the bottom line. Is the stock's up 100%.
It's the reason XBI is popping. It's the main reason. It's worth 1% of XBI. So you got 0.64 for everything else. So it's a big pop. I've already sold my XBI. I already sold it this morning. It was a good trade. Buy it over the weekend, sell pre-market at the open. Sometimes you lose, but I do it every weekend. It seems to make money overall.
Wow. If someone sent you the memo a couple weeks ago on this stock, never open an email from that person again. That stock was over $28 earlier in the month. I'm trying to see what happened on Friday in this thing, unless you just had some really nervous Nellies here. This thing it had 4 down days going into the this news. I don't know if it was scheduled or not. And then you get this kind of pop above an all-time high. Dennis, this got to $64. 64. I'm not
I
going to
don't even
do.
know.
I'm not going to do my old walk on the hands on the lodge downtown. But man, that's $14 away. That's $15 above the pre-market high. I just say holds 50. I'll just go real short term here. We pull back. You hold 50. You hold 50. That's just based on a 15-minute chart. So that and a nickel will get you a cup of coffee. But big move if you had a target in this area. Well, your target's being hit.
All right,
Take the money and run.
do we got to talk some Nvidia this morning? Company is looking, the stock is looking like it's going to open at new all-time
Wow.
highs. We
Wow.
have never
Wow.
seen $1,100 a share on Nvidia, but it's looking like this morning we could hit that level. $5 away here from 1,100, and it
We already
seems like
hit it.
just
We already
hit it and then came down. Okay, so I mean, no specific real company news that we did have some Dell news that is involved with Nvidia, but to me, this just looks like continued positive momentum after the earnings report last week, as well as, run up into the split, which is coming a lot sooner than most of the times when companies announce splits. They're months and months away. When Nvidia announced its 10-for-1 split, it was like 2 weeks away, and now at this point, we're looking at what, next week Nvidia is going to split 10-for-1.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's June 6th.
Maybe it's 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So what's interesting, we had somebody tweeting out, I forget who it was. I just saw the tweet, and I actually did retweet it on the weekend. And it was saying, I had a resident come up and saying, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to buy CMG and Nvidia ahead of the split and make some money." And he was kind of making fun of the person for that. And I'm like, you know what, man? Do some homework, because that strategy is actually really good. Being long stocks ahead of splits just works. It's full alpha extraction there. I do that myself, where I usually buy ahead of the split. Sometimes it actually works. Usually I sell, like it's like event-driven trading, right? Usually I sell, ahead of an earnings event. I'll own a stock ahead of the earnings and then sell it right before it reports. A lot of times on the splits, it actually pays to hold through the split and sell it the next morning, because the stock's often open higher because everybody's excited. Oh, they can buy Nvidia at $100. I'm going to come in and buy it, Or there's orders left on the book where people don't even realize, they think it's still $1,000. So often there's good alpha extraction from being long stocks ahead of splits and actually to the day of, and then usually, you see the stock, maybe open up that day and then it peters out a little bit. But Nvidia is such a stock that everybody wants to own. I mean, being short here now is like, it's got to be tough. Anyways, 1096, stock's up 31 points. Is it overdone here? Probably. It's a pretty big move here for the stock for today. But I mean, the stock is just marching. It's making new all-time highs. It's marching ahead of the split. Hard to bet against this.
I'll just give you the pre-market high, 1105. You backed off a little bit, kind of quiet the last 15-minute brackets, but it looks like, I don't know if that was part of the 8 o'clock print? No, it looks like decent support at 1085 and minor resistance. That's the only thing there ever is in Nvidia. Nvidia is minor resistance there at 1105.
All right, it is 8:35. We have our esteemed guest of the day hanging out backstage. It is a T3 Tuesday. We're going to be bringing on David Prince. Without further ado, let's give David our very special pre-market prep welcome and see what David's been trading when we get back. All right, David Prince, welcome back to pre-market prep. How are you doing this morning?
Good. How are you boys?
Good. Good to have you back on. So I'm sure you have some thoughts on Nvidia. How are you trading this right now as it sets to open at all-time highs this morning?
Well, I first have to tell Dennis, because I saw the tweet he's talking about. It actually came from someone I'm sure we all respect. It was actually from Walter. It was Walter who was saying that someone in his community, I assume it's like assisted living, was doing this strategy. And Dennis, responded. It turns out it's not as silly as it sounds like, but it was actually Walter who was talking about it, just because
That's
you
funny.
think it was some no-name guy.
No, it was somebody fairly big.
Yeah,
Like it wasn't
Walter
like
Deaver.
it was
So,
Walter. And I mean, and I mean, long term, maybe it doesn't work to like be buying, right away and holding. It depends on your time frame. So Walter's a longer term guy, so he's probably talking. Yeah, you want to be buying something after it's just around 20% for a split. You're probably losing money long term. I'm short term though. That's 3 days ahead of the split,
why
David.
Do the cute trade, but if they work over time and they always work, I get it. Like I heard you on XBI. I'd never do that trade, but if you have evidence it works, then okay. Like who am I to make fun of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when I buy it, I buy it. But I get how some of that stuff worked.
Time frames are funny, like sometimes, you can have two very good investors or two very good traders and they have a little bit different time frame and their strategies can really conflict in the short term, but then they both end up making money in the long term. Like Walter, probably if he's selling into these pops and he's holding it, he's probably going to do well with that too. So no disrespect to you, Walter, just time frames here, but if you got a short-term day trader like me coming in, on their XBI, buy it on Friday, sell it on Monday. It just has worked for a long time. And there's reasons for that is, sometimes you have that merger Monday and the XBI, if you get lucky and one of those 300 stocks hit, and they do sometimes, you make yourself 1%. And sometimes just excitement through the weekends. We know there's positive alpha. This is positive alpha just from owning stocks at the close and selling at the open. We've seen those tweets before.
Over the years, yeah.
Yeah, 130% on any stock in XBI is positive alpha. That's
helps.
So
I guess we could stop our sponsorship campaign with the AARP. I guess they will not be interested in sponsoring any of our content. But I just want to talk about.
Sorry, I apologize. I didn't answer your Nvidia question.
Yeah, that's where we started.
So,
what are your thoughts here? I mean, we're running into the split. It split's coming here. The stock is firing on all cylinders. It's had the gap and go from earnings here. What are your thoughts here?
My thoughts at first, I think a lot of younger folk or people who really actually don't pay attention to earnings and just look at what's up or down a lot, I think they're learning a lesson that earnings actually really do matter. I think it was Larry Kudlow who used to say it's like the mother's milk. It really is. And now people are like, oh, okay, so maybe a stock can go up a lot and stay up there. So to me, it all makes perfect sense. I stayed loyal to it. It's really made my year. I'm not unusual. I'm sure a lot of people. So I actually held the stock into the print. So the way you talk about people do things differently. And I hung in there. And then in front of 1040, 1050 last week, I was traveling the back half of the week. I said, you know what? I really want to relax. I haven't relaxed in forever. I'm going to get flat. And I'm actually, I get it. The split, it'll probably keep going, but I want to lower the size of my positions. So I'm actually flat, but played it into the print. I've been an aggressive buyer since under, talking recent times, under 800. I don't see any reason to get in front of it. And if you look at its history in terms of guys shorting, it can go to 80 relative strength, which would take it up another 20 or 30. So you can be cute. Could it turn red today for a second? Yeah, but I think we all know it'll be a buy again. So I'm not getting in front of it. If it goes to 1150 here, or if it goes to back to 1070, to me, it's still a buy on the way up. Now, am I an investor up here? No. I'm not first. If you're first buying Nvidia here, you're doing it wrong, right?
Yeah.
But overall, it's backed by earnings. It's cheaper than some of the best companies out there that trade at much higher valuations. So I'm flat now. I can't wait to get back in on any pullbacks. Hopefully we'll have one, and I wasn't too cute for myself, but I think it all makes sense. Can't argue it.
David, what about the peers? Let's just go directly to AMD. I mean, it tells a completely different story than Nvidia here from a chart perspective. Nvidia's been running, making new all-time highs. And then you got AMD that's really a long ways from the highs we hit 3 months ago. Had the earnings, went down, but then the earnings dip got bought here. What are your thoughts? Talk AMD.
Okay. May I include two other stocks with AMD? Because I think a story was told last week that you have to recognize if you really care about AI. And when I look at the AI trade in reference to Nvidia, I think AMD, I think MU, I think Dell, I think SMCI. You can throw in Broadcom, but those four tend to really get alpha off of AMD or lack thereof, right? And the first thing is AMD is not scaling to the degree yet that Nvidia should be taking it higher. It's just not. I think the question is, investors are like, we're coming off such a low base, not stock price, revenue, that if we can start to show these raising guidance by $1 billion, $2 billion, we can play some catch up, because it's not about whether they compete. It's just, can you shock the street with guidance changes that are so big? Two things. The rest of the business has to stop decelerating, right? They have the rest of their business is way too big for AI not to be a monster. Like Nvidia actually had a poor, the only little problem with Nvidia's earnings was actually, I think, graphic chips, right? It was gaming. So, but no one gave a damn because AI is growing so big. AMD doesn't have that luxury. So either the rest of their business has to solidify and find a bottom, or AI has to grow enough. I don't think it can move. The other stocks, though, is last week, I think Dell became the de facto winner. And Dell is the actual Nvidia sympathy play, and it's the stack. Look at Dell and SMCI. Look at their charts on top of each other. That, to me, is what everyone should be paying attention to. Look what happened last week between Dell and SMCI, and that's the Nvidia picture I'm looking at. And it's all over my Twitter. I said, Dell over SMCI, Dell over SMCI. If you're trying to play stack and so on, that really seems to be what I'm looking at. Anyhow, I'm not saying AMD can't work. I'm just saying there's not a lot of fundamental reasons that make it work. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on AMD. It's got to either firm up their business, or AI's got to grow a lot faster with like major $1 billion, guidance raises. What do you think of it?
I'm long AMD.
Well, am I making? You can be long, and I can still make sense.
I'm like the AI guy. I'm long like everything that can be AI.
Well, so maybe educate me. Am I saying anything that doesn't make sense to you?
No. And I'm with you. Like this, AMD is clearly, not number one. And I mean, I'm long Nvidia still here too. I think there's room for Lisa Su. I'm basically a Lisa Su fan, so I'm long AMD because I believe that Lisa Su is going to figure it out. So I'm not long it on margin. I'm not long options. I'm just long it straight up in the long-term portfolio, because I think when I look at AMD 3 to 5 years from now, I think the AI pie is going to be so big. There's just going to be so much to share for everyone. So I mean, it's on your time frame. I have no trade on though right now.
Time frame, we just discussed trading versus investing. 1000% agree, because they are in second place, right?
Yep.
And so the question is, like, there's actually a video of me saying this. Like, the idiots are like, well, they can't compete with Nvidia. I don't care if they can compete with Nvidia. I care if second place there's enough pie. So I agree 1000%. I was answering your question about the next month or two, and who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no position on it in the next month or two. It's tricky. I mean, we're gonna get this. We got this Nvidia run up happening here. We got this AI. Maybe it cools off a bit. To use. But I'd be a buyer of dips on AMD. I'll say that.
My horse last week was actually solar. I was lucky enough to be a part of that crazy move. Were you guys in solar? Because I can't.
Did you get in the first solar
last week?
David, were you in the first solar? Because this thing was a monster.
No, I'm not that smart. I'm like the AMD of the solar trade. I'm an ENPH. I wish I was the Nvidia of the solar trade. So I'm like half smart. But I really was looking at ENPH's numbers and just looking at how bad things have been. And I'm like, they could have an up year with crazy earnings in 25 versus 24, partially because things have gotten so bad, and look where the stock is. So I was like, it's time. And I'm bullish IWM, and it's such a benefactor of IWM. So I went long, and I took the FSLR ride via ENPH. But my point is, in a week where everyone talked about Nvidia, First Solar went up almost 40%. It's not a $1 billion company.
Unbelievable. Yeah. That move was probably the most under radar, biggest move that I've seen come out of nowhere, really. I mean, it came out of nowhere. And, and Solar's been in the gutter to your point, and boom, you get First Solar just blasting off out of nowhere 80 points. That's an incredible move. I see what you're looking at EMPH too, where you can maybe have a catch-up trade, but it's just like we've been down here consolidating.
Yeah.
If interest rates, it's an interest rate sensitive play. If interest rates can start actually, go ahead.
No, it's all about interest rates. So if it was 125, I wouldn't have taken the trade, but it was down at 112, 113. I said, you know what? Actually, I can do this trade and I can manage my risk via options, because do I want to buy thousands of shares and then find out they pre-announce earnings, which aren't for a couple of months? I don't need to be a part of that. So I can do it through options, still take a sizable position. And I got lucky. I mean, a 15, 16
Dude, that
point move.
analyst came in, David. Were you paying attention to that? I mean, I've never seen 4 price target raises within basically a week. Barclays, Piper, UBS, JP Morgan.
That was on First Solar you're talking about.
Yeah.
That was First Solar. I was shocked. Yeah. I was like, what do they know? I totally noticed that, buddy. I don't know why all of a sudden, but I saw that and they were aggressive about it.
Very.
How much do you pay attention to that?
Like they were betting on election. I couldn't figure it out, but they were really like, they felt like they knew something. I totally know what you're talking about. Like out of the blue, they became shockingly aggressive with earnings guidance and so on. So anyway, that was what my week was about last week. Yes, Nvidia was fun, but Solar, I was like, okay.
David, what's your preferred index? I mean, I'm S&P centric. Dennis covers everything. Do you have I've heard you mention the S&P, the triple Qs, the IWM.
I live and die by the Qs.
You live and die by the Qs. Okay.
I trade SPY. I'm actually long IWM right now, but what I trade in size over the last 20, 30, it's Qs. That's really my thing. It's what I'm comfortable with. How it flows, how it trades. It's just always been my thing. Now, at this stage of the game, I'm not a big buyer up here, but that's what I trade.
Do you hedge yourself at all, like on some of these trades, like come in and okay, well, we get a market sell-off? Like I've traded market neutral for like the majority of my trading career, where I take a big position in Nvidia and I might offset with a little bit of Qs. Do you just directionally bet and you're going and no sense hedging because I'm confident in my bets?
I do it via size, which I once told you guys. For me, it's like if I'm large the Qs and I feel like it's an investment, then I'm not hedging because I'm very comfortable that I'll maybe take a little bit longer to make money. If it's shorter term and I'm sized, then I'm hedging. But that's about the only time, right? Because I'm not comfortable investing. It's shorter term and I have some size on. So I only hedge about 5-10% of the time. Because for me, I actually hate market neutral. It's just, I cut myself off, right? It's like the same reason I don't do call spreads a lot of time, right? If I really believe in the play, I want to allow it to work. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just my mindset is because I sell too early. I mean, I sold Nvidia 40 points ago. My mindset is always, I have to figure out how to stay in the trade longer. I'm still working on that part. So why cut off my upside? I'm still working on that part.
David, before we let you go, do you get your trading tips from that little thing behind you with the
Charlie Brown? That's Charlie Brown by Kenny Sharp, and he actually gives me all my info. Yep, for the last
Charlie Brown. That's
awesome.
Okay.
David,
I collect some crazy.
That's the secrets right there. It's the Charlie Brown trade there. Now we know David Prince's secrets.
There you go.
David, you always got some good ideas when you come on. You nailed that Nvidia trade a couple weeks ago. You were in Solar last week. What do people get when they sign up for this ebook? We have the QR code here on the bottom of the screen to download your ebook. What do folks get with that?
That's more a function of really how to trade options in kind of a responsible manner, not be a home run hitter. Do it via buying enough time, paying attention to IV when an option trade doesn't make sense. There are people who be like, so I see you have end phase. I'm not comfortable buying size in the stock. I want to do it through options too. And I'll say, your account's too small. Like options don't make sense. Because I really think options are a way to manage risk without taking outsized risk, where I'd say 80% of the people out there think it's a way to hit home runs all the time. And it's either, zero or hero. And to me, it's the opposite. That's how I utilize options.
Got it. So folks want to learn more how to manage risk and kind of hit those singles with options. Go ahead and sign up for David's ebook. We have the QR code on the screen as well as the link in the description. David, always great to catch up with you and see what you've been trading. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.
Hey guys, in case you wanted to look, because I'm trying to figure out INSM myself, $1.4 billion market per year. That bronchiolitis, whatever that indication is. Anyway, I don't know. It sounds like it's got a big TAM. Have a great week, guys.
What's your Twitter or X handle, David?
It's at Epic Trades 1.
At Epic Trades 1. I'll throw that in the chat as well. All right, David, enjoy your short week.
Have a great
day.
Thanks, David.
All right. About 10 minutes left. Joel, looks like you had something you wanted to
I just was going to say, did that it balances a little bit to the sell side here,
They
Dennis?
are, Joel. Yeah, they are. There's a little bit weakness just showing. I'm not seeing a lot of, like, I know we're up here and the S&Ps are trying to hold up well, and we got a lot of movers. I mean, when you've got Nvidia trading up 3%, you have Apple trading up 1.5%, and you got the Qs only up 0.26%, expect a lot of other stocks to actually be down. So because they just is too much. Like Meta's now, trading 2 points in the red because they got to sell something, right? They're buying something. This is the way this market works. They're buying something, they're selling something out. They're selling something, they're buying something else. It's not like all-in market. It's never been an all-in market, not for a long time. So you just look here, Microsoft's red, Meta's red, Google's red, Amazon's red, Tesla's red. Because Apple and Nvidia are up so dang much.
Yeah, the other Magnificent Seven stocks have been kind of, they're not getting as much attention. They're like the neglected children right now. Netflix, it did get an analyst upgrade from at Evercore, maintains outperform on Netflix, raises price target to $700. So Netflix is, you got this big analyst call and the stock's only up about 0.14% here this morning, up like 90 cents. So not a big move on Netflix, but it is barely in the green here. So I mean, if the overall market, the Qs continue to go higher, you have to expect that some of these other Mag 7 stocks start to catch up a little bit. But again, like you said, Dennis, I think Nvidia is just kind of hogging all the attention.
It is. And I don't see that changing. That's the whole thing. We have a pre-split run going on here right now. Is it going to continue? And when the stock's making new all-time highs, they can continue. Even to David's point, it's probably, it's getting to a point where it's overbought here. But at the same time, you've got a lot of reasons to think that this pre-split run could continue. So, I mean, Nvidia's hogging all the media attention. It's been doing that for a while here. Everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people were expecting Nvidia to not meet the higher expectations from the last earnings report. And I think a lot of people were positioned to say, well, this stock actually had a 70-point expected move, and I think a lot of people thought that move was going to be down. Well, it ended up being up. And now you got the gap and go and the split, how much this, the split helped it, the 10-for-1. But we kind of thought that they might announce that just for the simple reason is that Jensen Huang was on Cramer, Mad Money, a month and a half earlier saying, yeah, we'll look into that. So it was kind of a logical timing. So now you got the gap and go. You got traders caught. You got people just hate this stock. Think about Dan Nathan. He's on there every single day saying, the stock is overvalued, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000, 1,100. He's not the only one. It's a lot of people who really feel the stock is extremely overvalued. I've never been of that case because it's growing earnings so quickly, but, it's at a certain point in time, there's going to be a pullback. But right now, we're in rocket ship mode here on this thing, and you got to split. You have an event coming here. So, I don't know why the attention's all of a sudden going to go to the Microsofts and the Apples, and it might change, but at this point in time, it's just it's in rocket ship mode.
Yeah, and I think the more attention you see Nvidia getting, and again, like this hype around the implementation of AI, and as different companies figure out how exactly they're adopting it, it's going to be more attention to the companies like, and I see some people in the chat talking about it, VRT. The data center plays, the infrastructure
I screwed
plays
that one right
for the. I mean, look, unless you bought VRT like a few months ago and have just held through everything,
and I didn't hold it. Got hold.
Then I think a lot of people screwed this up because I called this one out in the 80s. one of my buddies was asking, like, besides Nvidia, what are the other, AI plays?
Good
And I was like,
call.
well, data centers, and I have the text. I looked at it over the weekend because I searched VRT through my text messages to find it. And I was like, God, I mean, I told him about it, but I didn't put my own money behind it. So I screwed up the trade as well. But I think a lot of attention will go to these types of, AI plays that are below Nvidia. They're not going to be as direct, AI plays maybe, but they're still going to benefit from the boom of it. So I think, you'll see people, continue to flock to names like this: copper plays, data center plays. We heard Chaikin say that natural gas was an AI play.
Yeah, he talked about that last week, and that was having a little bit of a pullback in the natty gas. We figured it out. I believe half of this move is at the like 260 to 265 area. So if you were waiting to get this natty gas on a pullback, well, 3 red days here. Let's see if we can find a bid in this area. You also can look at the UNG. That's had a little bit of a pullback as well. So, been in long-term downtrends, but showing a little bit of life. Just going back to the Netflix real quick.
Before you leave, okay. Just because you're talking about other AI plays, I mean, the one that we haven't covered a lot on this show, but I've been trading it, is Constellation Energy. I mean, Kramer's talked about this one too, and give Kramer some credit. I mean, we've obviously on this show over the years, we've gave Kramer some love, we've gave Kramer some hate, we've been all over the place here. I keep saying in the last year, Kramer has been killing it, man. Jim Kramer has turned around and he is making calls, like unbelievable calls, and he's been all over this Constellation Energy. And as an AI play, like you need more energy. Constellation Energy is the leader here. CEG, like you think about all the energy you're going to be using from, AI. I mean, and Constellation Energies continues to go here. This is another one of those AI plays that doesn't seem like an AI play, but it is. And this stock just continues to move here too. Now, I don't know, at a certain point, this is overbought too. It went from $120 to $230. It's been a big move, but credit where credit is due. Jim Cramer's been on fire.
Yeah, and they shut down that inverse Kramer ETF. But if they hadn't, I'm sure
it was maybe and we love Matt Tuttle. Matt's been on the show lots of times here, and obviously, Jim's been up and down and left and right. The reason they shut down wasn't because Jim was he had the long and the short. I think it just wasn't the interest in the trading of it.
It was hard to tracking too.
Well,
it was really hard. He struggled with the tracking. He's like, I gotta sit here. He's on our show. He's like, I sit here and I gotta watch Mad Money every night. He's like, I don't want to watch Mad Money every night. We love you, Matt.
The whole social media trend of people just acting like, oh, if Kramer said something, reverse it. What was happening was people would when Kramer's on TV every single day talking about stocks, sure, there are going to be ones where he's wrong on. And so they would take only the ones he was wrong on, never show any of the ones he was right on. So I always thought that was kind of overblown because,
that's
Kramer,
everyone too, that's everybody that, you get on there and, everybody wants to trash. Oh, they bad call. Even on this show, I mean, it happens to us too. We make a call on something and then, it goes the wrong way and everybody will call that out for you. But that's the way that works. People like to make fun of people.
Yep. All right, Joel, who do we got coming on with us tomorrow on Wednesday? Again, it's a shortened week, so don't forget about that. Only 4 trading days this week. Joel, who's joining us tomorrow morning?
We're going to talk commodities with Greg Weldon from Weldon Online. There's been some nice moves in the commodities markets, and he's our commodity expert. So he'll be joining us on Wednesday, dialing up Rocky Horner on Thursday, and then Jonathan Corpina he'll be joining us from home. But we did a little work, and next time Jonathan comes on, he's going to be joining us from the New York Stock Exchange. So that's what we have as guests. Yeah. Just looking at the market here overall, S&P, just focusing on that. You're not at the all-time closing high that was made last week. That's at 45 and a quarter. But we are currently trading right in this area. You had multiple closes last week. So I think it's a good day for the bulls to say, hey, we had that little break on Thursday for whatever reason. We're right back up here. We're going to establish a strong bid in this area and take us up maybe to all-time highs. Earnings big later in the week. You have some big companies reporting, but that's not going to be, I think, until Thursday and Friday. And then you have your PCE number coming out later in the week to end the marvelous month of May.
All right. Well, we'll see if Nvidia's positive momentum will be enough to keep the overall market in the green today. Hope everyone has a great day trading. We will see you guys tomorrow morning. Please smash the like if you haven't already, and we will have live trading starting up right now.